Hi, my name is Marcus Smith. I'm glad you're joining me today. I want to talk a little bit about depression today, and more specifically, depression amongst teenagers. It's a pretty common topic talked about today, which is rather unfortunate. I think there's a lot of people going through this, and I will go over some of those numbers. I don't want to spend a ton of time on that because it is kind of boring, but I'm also going to go over the science behind it, why teenagers specifically are experiencing this. I want to go over some examples, talk about my own experience, and then how to deal with it. And hopefully, you'll be able to learn a little bit more about it and some ways to cope with it and combat it after I'm done here. So, if you search teenage depression, you'll probably be overwhelmed with the amount of articles you find. I know I was. There's thousands of different articles on the internet about teenage depression alone. I found one on CDC's website that I thought would be pretty credible. And I found some of the numbers to be a little strange. I think they could be higher. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Obviously, at the end of the day, the numbers are the numbers, but I just want to explain why I think they might be a little bit higher, than we think. So, the first number they give is 15% having a major depressive episode. And just to clarify, this is among adolescents to age 12 to 17 years old for last year, and this was taken over the entire year, these numbers. So again, 15% had a major depressive episode, and then 19% seriously considered attempting suicide. I found that a little bit strange that more kids are considering suicide than having a major depressive episode. But it's maybe they define a major depressive episode as something different. I won't really go into that because that's just my opinion. But I did want to mention that to y'all so that if you want to look more into that, you can. But the main number I was looking at was this number here. It's 37% of adolescents said they had persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. Which is pretty much the definition of depression, right? So that's a lot of kids. That's over 1/3 of adolescents saying that they were experiencing depression, basically. Now, I want to go into a little bit of the science why it's teenagers that are experiencing this, why there's so many teenagers experiencing this. So when we're young, we have different parts of the brain are working together, but it's usually just two, and they're very close. And these small networks are great for simple tasks, like maybe recognizing your mother's voice. But once we go into adolescence, we see that multiple different parts of the brain are working at the same time. And when these different parts of the brain become synchronized, we're able to process more complex cognitive abilities and long-term thought. We have more of a long-term thought process. Sorry, and I think that really hits a lot of teenagers hard because they aren't preparing for that. I mean, not many children are preparing for something like that. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why there's so many teenagers dealing with depression, and more specifically anxiety, depression, which I'll get into a little bit in a minute. Some examples of teenage depression, and this is really all depression, but teenagers especially. If you're listening to this, it's pretty much a guaranteed that you've had sad or depressed feelings at some point in your life. Now, this doesn't mean that you're necessarily depressed, or have clinical depression, rather, I should say, because there is a big difference between depressed feelings and clinical depression. Depressed feelings and sadness are completely normal, but when those feelings stick around for extended periods of time, that's when it can become dangerous, and start to lead to depression. Uh, if you're dealing with the loss of a loved one or something like that, it's going to, that you've known for a long time, years, it's going to take more than 1 to 2 days to overcome that. But if you just can't seem to find any joy throughout the day, maybe you've changed physical aspects of your life like your diet, sleep schedule, things like that, this could be very dangerous because those are some key symptoms of depression. Anxiety is a really common example of depression. Lots of people experiencing anxiety, depression, especially teenagers, because, like I said, they're now thinking long term, and what they're doing between ages 12 and 17 are really affecting what the rest of their life is going to look like. So, and I think that really hits them hard. I think that a lot of teenagers do not know how to deal with that. I definitely think that that's probably what I've thought about the most, and thinking about the future, and just not necessarily because you want the best job or more money or anything like that, but just seeing out your full potential, I think is very overwhelming to a lot of people, and I know it was for me. Now I want to go over a couple of ways you can deal with depression. There's several different ways to deal with it, and you could just go to your doctor and get medications, but no one wants to be on medications. No one wants to have to rely on that. So I want to talk about some other ways first. Obviously, if you're having serious depression and it's been a long-term thing, you do need to consult your doctor or a health professional. But there's a few things you can do first. There's several books out there that help you deal with this problem. There's some that I can personally recommend, and I've found some as well from different websites. When Life Goes Dark, Finding Hope in the Midst of Depression by Richard Winter. Feeling Great by Dr. David Burns is another good one. And Learning Hopefulness by Dan Tomasulo is a great one as well that I can personally recommend. There's also lots of things you can do physically to help fight off depression, such as regular exercise, healthy diet, and most importantly, good quality sleep. If you find yourself having trouble sleeping at night, this could in fact be the root of the problem. This could be causing you to be stressed out and have experience depression because you just have a lack of energy and things like that. So if you're having trouble sleeping, you might want to consult your doctor about that problem as well, because the depression, yes, can lead to lack of sleep, but lack of sleep can also lead to depression, and so that's something that you want to keep in mind. The third thing you can try is getting a good support group. Now, this can be as simple as hanging out regularly with family members and friends that can support you and help you with your going through depression. Or this could be something like finding a support group of other people going through depression or whatever. And there's a couple different ways you can find them. A good way is to go to talk to your doctor or mental health professional. They can generally recommend local support groups. And then there's a great website as well that it is go.harmonyrecoverync.com. That's go.harmonyrecoverync.com. And that is with Charlotte Mental Health Center. They can help you find local mental health support groups. And I think that's a great way to go about combating your depression and trying to overcome it. And then, obviously, you can go to your doctor or mental health professional to talk about your depression. Now, when I say mental health professional, you can do something. There's a broad range of things you can do. You could do something as simple as, Walgreens has online therapy sessions that you can do. No commitment. You can do one. If you don't like it, stop right there. It's completely online, so it's very easy to access. Or you can do something like, go to your practitioner, your doctor, and talk about treatments like prescription medications. Now, there's nothing wrong with prescription medications, but it's definitely a very dangerous thing if you're not careful. But if you're dealing with depression and anxiety and things, it's definitely better to be on medications than it is to have to deal with that constantly. So you want to make sure that you do that as quickly as possible if you are experiencing depression and you've tried other things and it doesn't work. My hope for this discussion was not only that you now sort of understand a little bit of the science and why teenagers especially are experiencing depression. Hopefully you learned a little bit about, that it's sort of normal. There is a science behind it. It's not just you or certain feelings you're having. There is a science behind it, but that you also have found ways to cope with it and overcome it, and that you're encouraged, and that you will be able to defeat this problem that you're having. Thank you so much for joining me today.